Hello, I hope you guys are doing well, or as well as you can. I have officially moved these recaps to YouTube, dare you to death, but I am too lazy to redo all the formatting to make it a proper YouTube recap, and I also don't really have time to properly do that sort of thing. So you're just gonna get the fast TikTok-y edits, and I apologize for that. But now I'm in widescreen, so you can see more of all this, but also more of Dare You to Death. So let's get into it. So we open on Jay talking to someone on the phone, asking if he can come over. Turns out he witnessed Tonkla getting crushed to death by a car, and then he gets hit over the head with a crowbar by this sudden new accomplice. We're back in the club with the death match. Jay's doing pretty well. Look at the sweat on his back. But then someone gives the other dude a knife. And Common gets so mad that the previous deal of if your guy wins, I'll resign. If my guy wins, you'll tell me everything is suddenly off, and now they're pointing guns at each other. So we intercut between Jade getting stabbed by this guy, and a shootout between Common and all of Sanjay's people. Common and Jade's non-ex-boyfriend sort out the shootout, but Sanjay ends up escaping. And Jade sorts out the other dude, but he passes out from his stab wound. They have a moment on the bench outside where shirtless Jade is like, oh, I just want to be pampered a little bit, and Common is like, okay, and then proceeds to tickle his wound, as the homies do with their situationship. And then they have a moment in bed together where they cuddle, and I don't know anything about stab wounds. I feel like he should be in the hospital. Reminder, he also got jumped 3 days ago. But I mean, I guess he's okay because he's cuddling with his man, even though he's just on his shoulder and not his whole chest, which I feel like would be more comfortable. The next morning, Jade finally realizes that his brother has been out all night, and Common gets a call from the forensic guy who's been trying to hit on him. He's like, yo, we found another dead body, and Jade's brother was there. He says to Jade, don't worry about your brother. He just took a heavy blow to the head and lost consciousness. But he is fine. Tonkla said, though. He also says, by the way, how did you get Common's number? I know he didn't give it to you. And this man admits that he got it from someone on the investigation team. He's still trying, even when now there's 4 dead bodies. What a persistent man. Now Jade's in the hospital, which, if you remember a couple episodes ago, when Jade was in the hospital, he had a way nicer blanket. Jade regains consciousness, and he immediately starts crying because his friend Tonkla is dead, and Jade gives him a hug. They try to ask Jay if he remembers anything, but Jay, who is just unconscious, doesn't remember anything. But when pressed, he does recall that there were 2 people at the crime scene, and the person who hit him was a man. Outside Jay's hospital room, they're actually debating the truth of the story, because it turns out that Jade suspects Jay because he doesn't remember anything, and he was the only one at the crime scene, which is a convenient lie, but that's your brother, so that's crazy. But then Common responds, with all due respect, your brother's too much of an idiot to kill somebody. He's like, okay, if you say so, but I do think there's somebody on the inside being a mole and working for the bad guy on our team, because the killer's always one step ahead of us. They meet up with the 2 guys who helped them with the club last night. They're a part of the special investigation unit, I think is what it's called. And they're like, okay, we raided the club last night, and we found a bunch of drugs, including ketamine, but also these very specific type of acids that were used to kill Bella. And it's revealed here that I think each of the victims had ketamine in their body at the time of death, which seems strange to me because the way it was edited was that both Belle and Tonkla, there was no opportunity for them to be injected with ketamine before they died. Unless I missed it, but so I guess it was done posthumously, but that doesn't really make sense to me, but maybe there's a reason for it. Basically, it's highly likely that whoever the killer is bought drugs from Sanjay. So if they can track Sanjay down, they can track the killer down. Jade steps out of the room, and Kamen immediately goes to interrogate these two dudes, being like, what was your relationship with Jade? And they give each other a shit-eating grin, and it's just like, oh, we were just all, like, besties when we were training together in the special investigation unit. And then it's revealed that Jade, during assessment, while training, he and the other two were in the water, tied up together, but his friend wasn't surfacing, so he goes to help him, like, untie himself, but that ends up just, like, dismissing him from training and out of the special unit or whatever. The instructor, there we go, was like, you're too emotional. You can't be emotional in the special investigations unit. So, bye. But he says being emotional is one of Jade's strengths. After all, you know, if you have no one to come home to, why are you doing all the special investigations unit missions? They also tell Kamen, thank you for bringing back light and joy into Jade's life. And then they leave and he hides his little shit-eating grin, this man who refuses to define their relationship. They bring together all the people to go over, they just basically go over all the drug details. I'm just pointing this out because Jade was like, oh, I think there's like someone on the inside who is secretly the culprit, so it has to be one of these people because they haven't really had many speaking lines outside of like talking about the case, but they've been shown multiple times, so there's a decent chance that it's one of these people. I kind of want it to be her because her hair is my favorite, but that's not a strong enough reason, so I can be swayed easily. Kamen goes to visit the forensic doctors to get the autopsy results. Ooh, I can tell you about it over a meal if you're interested. Bro, we are at work. Stop. And so now it's awkward. But he does give him the results of the autopsy, and basically Tonkla also had ketamine in his system. The more pressing thing is that he is like, are you really, really not interested in me? Or is Captain Jade just being a bitch and keeping you away from me? And he's just like, yeah, bro, I'm really not interested in you. Sorry. The only person I flirt with over dead bodies is Captain Jade. And he's like, oh, fine, whatever. Well, he accepts it much more gracefully than that. I hope he doesn't die single. Unless he's the accomplice, he doesn't deserve that. Jade goes to visit his brother Jay in the hospital, and he also just straight up tells him that he thinks he's a suspect, which is crazy to tell anyone, much less your own brother. Jay, all things considered, takes it in stride. He's just like, ugh, you're so annoying. And then he goes to ask his brother, like, hey, by the way, are you okay? Jade admits that he's struggling handling this, that he can't separate his work life from his personal life, which is understandable because his brother is one of the suspects, and he's also in a situationship / living with his work partner. So yeah, that would be tough. But he's afraid if he admits that Kamen will, like, write him off, I guess, much in the way that the instructor did for him being too emotional. So he's trying to, like, put on big boy pants, but he's struggling. And then Jay's like, don't change who you are. Be emotional. You know, if you change, then you'll lose what's good about you, which is big talk from the brother who just got accused by his own brother, like, 2 minutes ago. But it's sweet. Kamen goes to call. The forensic doctor from episode 2 makes a reappearance, and Kamen calls and it's just like, hey, can you do another autopsy of Pui Fai's body and see if there's any ketamine found in it? And he's acting I feel like he's acting suspicious. Maybe he's not. He's just like, I don't know. It's been a minute, so I don't know if we'll find anything, but I'll do it. And I think it's just awfully convenient that he comes back the same episode Jade accuses someone of it being on the inside. Now, I'm, like, basically suspecting everyone, but I did kind of guess it episode 2. I said he might be involved, so I kind of want this guess to be true because it would be very funny on my part. So, oh no, it's raining outside. and he is so wet from coming out back here in the rain that he just has to take his shirt off, and he has to take a shower, and he has to wear Common's shirt, but he has to be shirtless again so Common can redress the wound. Jade is flirty and is like, oh, I can't put on this shirt by myself, can you help me? But then Common just like starts to trail his fingers down and advance the relationship like to fifth base, except for then Jade chickens out at the last moment. We're briefly interrupted by the revelation that Time was the one who hit Jay with the crowbar, but he seems to have been put up to it by the killer, which, with this whole truth or dare thing going on, maybe he was dared to do it? I don't know. But his fate is left hanging in the balance, because we cut back to these two, and now they're eating noodles, and they're just like, oh, it's so raining and wet outside, we just have to stay in the office. And conveniently, Jade has a bed or a mattress here, but it's so small, so like these two have to cuddle up. And also, just side note, they're about to like sleep. Like, he has a button down and he has a belt. He also has a belt, you just can't see it. This must be so uncomfortable. But then they have an actual heart-to-heart because Jade admits that all he could think about when they were at the club last night was how worried he was for Common. And then Common, like, strokes his face tenderly. It's like, all I could think about was how worried I was for you. Jade asks if they're more than boss and subordinate now, and then Common rolls on top, or he rolls Jade on top of him. He's like, dude, we have been more than boss and subordinate for a while. You just finally noticed. And then they start kissing, and then they're gonna have sex and hook up in the office on a thin-ass mattress. I mean, good for them. They clearly want it, and just would not be comfortable. Also, it is kind of funny that Common's the one who's being so, like, we're not anything, but then he, like, goes to great lengths to say we're more than boss and subordinate, and he's been the one who's, like, been making every move so far. Don't worry, because in the post-credits scene, Jade finally takes action, even though this is a flashback, but he finally is the one to first kiss Common. So that's where we end our episode off. That's a wrap on episode 6. Not a ton of plot or like mystery plot, but we got some good Jay and Jade stuff, and who knows what's gonna happen with Time. Maybe he'll be dead. They are doing a really, really, really bad job of keeping these kids safe, but whatever, they hooked up, so I think they're feeling pretty good about themselves. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.